Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Public Works to order this June 15th, and we'll start off with roll call. Clerk, if you could take the roll, please.
Alderman Eisenach.
Here.
Alderman Sevnik.
Here.
Alderman Hammond.
Here.
Alderman Tom Grotti.
Here.
Alderman Ted Grotti.
Here.
Alderman Rapella.
Here.
Alderman Nichols and Alderman Lewis are absent.
Thank you, Clerk. We will move on then. Is there anyone from the gallery that would like to speak at this time? If so, please give your name and address for the clerk.
Sandra DeBill Taylor, 545 Broad Street. I just wanted to comment, this is a special Board of Public Works meeting. I'm assuming it's not to do with the Bryn change order or payment, but it would have to do with the concept plan for Jefferson Park Pavilion and the new pavilion. My concern, first of all, is that this is a special meeting, meaning that it will have, following this meeting, it will go to the council and it will be voted on. That doesn't give the public time to weigh in. Typically, there's a 2-week period in there. The public can view the concept plan. They can give opinion to their alderman or alderperson. This is the first time I've seen it in the packet. I'm sure staff has worked on it, the mayor's worked on it. I don't know if any of the other aldermen have reviewed it, but there may be things that people are concerned about, or people think we need this, and you're losing that public input. Jefferson Park is the cornerstone of our community, and people are going to be very vocal on what happens there. And we've waited a long time, so my opinion is let's do it right. Let's allow the public to speak. Some of the things that I just noticed, first off, is this concept plan does not include any budget, as far as there's no itemized listing as to what any of these items are going to cost. But it does refer to the fact that staff will be performing work to save $200,000. Well, how much is it going to cost if we're using staff to save $200,000? And then I even kind of question at budget time, the park department requested additional staff because they were shorthanded. But now we have staff that have time available to work on it. So I kind of question that just from a fiscal standpoint. So I really think if we had a cost estimate of various items, we could pick and choose. These are the ones that we really want included, and these are ones that we wouldn't really need. Some of those, one thing I noticed that was not included, I didn't see any type of screening for the pavilion if we're going to do a major renovation. The biggest issue I've noticed at the park during the summer are bees and lake flies. And if someone's going to be renting that facility, I would think some type of screening would be beneficial. And I don't see that listed. It does talk about HVAC heating in the enclosed areas. So I'm assuming that's just the kitchen and the restrooms. I don't see any other heating other than this apparent fireplace. And I really kind of wonder with these pub tables, the fireplace, if we're getting away from a pavilion for the community to rent and have events there, and we're trying to turn this more into the beer garden. That was never part of the vision plan. And are these pub tables that are made out of concrete and stone, are they movable or stationary? Because I can see some little kids, if they're, right at head height and running right into them. So I'm just kind of questioning that. I'm questioning about picnic tables, what we have now, versus what is out there. There's something more maintenance-free that's easier to clean up, can be folded up and put away, or are they just the standard heavy wooden picnic tables that we've had for generations? I just think there's a lot of things. I don't see anything really special about the rendering. I kind of look back in 1961, great year, the year I was born, is when the Smith Park Pavilion was built. And at that time, Gilbert Paper donated the funds, $45,000 for that pavilion. So I did a little Google math, and that would be equivalent to like $476,000 today donation. So we do have an area on the pavilion for a plaque for donations, but are we going to put this big plaque up just for some paint? I mean, I don't see any major things going on there. Anything, there's no stage, there's no real aesthetics, there's no architectural features that are really outstanding. So I'm just kind of questioning, I love donations, and if someone's going to pay for a whole new pavilion, but if they're just going to pay for a pub table and have a big plaque, to me it kind of takes away from the idea that this is a community park. So I prefer that even though this is a special meeting to pass this tonight, that someone, whatever the proper terminology is, table it, hold it, or just take no action and wait 2 weeks and let your constituents weigh in on it. Put it on the website. The mayor could post it on his Facebook page, you know, to get some feedback. What do people really want in this? Is this what we are looking for? And I'm kind of questioning too the square footage. Are we reducing the square footage of the main pavilion? And then there is the new pavilion. And it was kind of confusing looking at the renderings, trying to get a drift of which one was which, but I kind of figured it out. But, and that too, it's like more of a storage garage. And it's just kind of plain. So I'm just asking that the public give the opportunity to get involved, that you get some cost estimates onto what this is going to be, what we're looking at, and take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. And when we do, part of the reason for this meeting is to address, and I've written down pretty much every question you had asked, so we will be addressing those, and those are good questions. I'll open up the mic if anyone else would like to make comment. If you do, please state your name and address for the clerk.
Sure. Dick Sturm, 1203 Greenwood Court in Menasha here, and I also represent the Park and Rec Board as their chairperson. Before you tonight, you do have the renovation of the existing pavilion and a new pavilion. I've listened to some of the comments here, and I'm not here to argue at all. The existing pavilion has been talked about throughout the process. It was determined by our consultants and by the park board, who visited at least twice to the existing pavilion to talk explicitly about it. It was determined that it had good bones. And I agree with that the existing pavilion has served us well. It's showing some wear and tear in its age, and it's in need of an update, a renovation. We determined that the renovation and updating of that pavilion was far less expensive than, as we went through the vision plan, far less expensive than trying to create a new pavilion, which would really put us out of range. As we go through this process, we're all aware of the fact that prices are going up on everything, and they're going up astronomically. Staff has taken this into consideration, along with the people that have and will be required to do the work as a way to keep it reasonable. We know that the cost of the entire project is accelerating far faster than we thought as we went through the process, and even as the funds were made available. So Park Board and myself as chair support our own folks, our skilled labor force, doing the amount of work that that's indicated in the memo and in the concept. I think it's the responsible thing to do, and I think it's the responsible thing to do to keep moving the vision for Jefferson Park forward in a timely manner. Our fear is that the longer that we delay, the more expensive it's going to be. And it could come to be that some things are pushed out of reach. But at this point, the pavilion, the existing pavilion, and the new pavilion are within reach. And I would encourage the Public Works Board to approve and move this on to the council level so that we can get this project moving forward. We spent some time getting traction to move the project forward, and it is. And I thank you for your support throughout this process and would ask that we keep moving it forward rather than delaying and have more expenses catch up to us. So thank you for listening, and I encourage you to move forward with the planned concept plan for both the existing pavilion and the new pavilion. Thank you very much. I think you have the material before you that I don't need to go into it any deeper. So thank you for your support.
All right, thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll then move on to approval of our minutes. Is there a motion? Alderman Rapella.
Oh, good. I'll make a motion to approve the change order.
No,
Oh, D, I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, the Board of Public Works for 1/2 of 2024.
is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Alderman Tom Grady. Any corrections, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Item E is a discussion item, and this pertains to the Lawson Canal. And I am going to open this up to both Megan and Thad, or even Corey. Who wants to go first? The commissioner?
I guess I'll go.
Okay.
So what you have here is just kind of an update on the Lawson Canal. This project's been out there for a while. Some of you may remember a number of years ago, we brought a concept plan for a bridge and an extension of Oak Street. Since that time, we've I don't want to say hit a few snags, but some items have come to light. Some hurdles that we've had to address and things like that with the DNR. So we're still working forward with the project, but a couple of the hurdles are some permitting with the dam, proposed dam, and then the gobies, and then utility permit extensions. Without having a good feeling with the DNR with respects of the gobies and the dam, we don't want to proceed forward with the bridge because that affects how some of the other stuff. If we move forward with the bridge and don't have the dam or the goby issues solved, we could build a bridge that goes over a dry creek bed. So we've been working with the DNR. We feel comfortable where we're at. We're going to be submitting dam plans and permits, hopefully here at some point this spring, early summer. And then we intend to apply again for the stewardship grant, which is
Beginning of May.
Beginning of May.
Okay, so I had asked that this be placed on the agenda because it didn't seem as though we were moving in any direction for the bridge. And we had approved that resolution back in May already. So remember we talked about the possibility of a covered bridge or all that kind of stuff. And it seemed like we weren't moving. And I guess in a nutshell, what Corey is indicating is that we may have some issues with the DNR and we want to resolve those first. you want to address maybe the continuation of the possibility of at least maybe putting in the rest of Oak Street there? And maybe not, and why that is an issue?
So this last summer, we did talk with some contractors. We were going to try and add the short piece of Oak Street up to the canal onto a contract. We just ran into some difficulties with timing and workloads and things like that, where the contractors didn't feel comfortable taking on that little bit of additional work in that area. So we still are looking at our options, and it would be my thought process that depending on where we're at with some of the permits and things, that would be something we're going to try and accomplish this summer in 2024.
Okay. Does, Megan, is there anything you want to add, or no?
No, really what was included in your packet, I wanted to provide a historical overview of where the project started it started almost 2 decades ago, but really in the last probably 10 years, I provided kind of a highlights of what has occurred. There's some new faces on the council, so I wanted to make sure that they kind of had an overview of what has happened throughout the last decade as far as major components of this project. And then, like Corey has outlined, kind of where we are with the Gobi barrier and the dam and where our standstill is because of that. So included in your packet, 2 is the concept plan. For those of you that haven't seen it in a while, you can see the overall concept plan. And then below that is a more detailed plan of what the waterway would look like with some of the water features and the different kind of overview of what that will look like when that's all built out, hopefully.
I would suggest a physical copy be given to the council. What we have in our computers loads up very, very, very,
Sure.
very, very slow.
Yeah, we can print out physical
In fact, mine is
copies.
still loading since you started talking.
Okay. Yep, we can certainly print out physical copies if you wish. That concept plan would have been approved, I think that would have been back in '21 when the board would approve that prior to first applying for the first time for the stewardship grant. And then we've worked on some detailed plans since then. We've slowed a little bit on the detailed plans because we want to make sure we can work through some of the concerns with the DNR before we continue pushing forward on the detailed plans.
And the reason I wanted this on the agenda is so that this body knew about it. Plus, if we're ever to develop that piece of property over there, we're going to need a bridge. And if there's no bridge right now, a lot of people are questioning, why aren't we doing anything? Or why isn't the developer over there trying to sell that property, and all those kinds of issues. So I think it's important that we had this communication. And if you have any further questions, Alderman Rappella?
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Sevenick. Corey, I have a concern about putting the street in if there's really going to be no bridge. I mean, it's going to be a street to nowhere, just like you had mentioned about a bridge to nowhere. So I guess, to me, I'd work on getting the bridge first and then worry about getting the street second.
The reason behind trying to get the street in, or some resemblance of a temporary asphalt like we would do in our newer subdivisions, would be to work with accommodating some parking and some access for the rentable commercial space within that development.
So
that-
makes it
that's-
difficult to rent if there's nothing there and you can't park in
Okay,
there.
all
So-
right.
And I think you've even questioned that in the
Right,
past. So-
yeah.
Yeah, so I feel confident that we can put something in and still have the flexibility with a future project to be able to adjust grades up or down a little bit to where we potentially will be with the elevation in the bridge. And again, the biggest thing would be to get something there in a temporary asphalt binder condition, just to allow some access and things of that nature, knowing that we're going to have to make some modifications to whatever we install there. One thing that I want to comment on from Alderman Sevenick, he made a comment about developing that area. Where we sit right now currently with the DNR is off off the table without moving the dam structure. So the peninsula from where the turbine dam is under the old Gilbert Mill, that peninsula all the way up to approximately a line from the existing bridge to the existing Menasha Dam, they consider that peninsula a dam structure. So we have old failing utilities within that area. We can't relay them. Any type of digging and things of that nature on that peninsula, they're going to stop us. And that's one of the hurdles that we've been presented. You know, we met with the DNR and a number of people, and it never came up. We were working forward through some stuff over a course of a few months. We had another meeting, and they dropped it in our lap that you can't do anything. And
Just ridiculous.
so
Just ridiculous.
that's where we've kind of, there's a lot of moving parts, not just the dam structure. You have utilities, you have the bridge, you have the road, you have Gobi issues. You have all of these issues that are unrelated but all tied together with the project. So like Megan said, we've kind of slowed on the pretty picture, the fine details in a lot of areas in trying to get in concept general things approved through the DNR. The last thing I would like to do would be build a dam and then them tell us that we can't have water flowing through there because they have Gobi concerns.
Correct.
You know, let's solve that problem before we get to that point. So,
Okay. Thank you, Corey. This might be for the mayor. Don, was any promises made, or I guess promises made to the apartment complex that Oak Street was going to be there as like a frontage road to the dam or to the bridge?
I believe there's something in the development agreement that states we'll work towards that, and the Lawson Canal as well.
And so the other part with this, Randy, is when we looked at the site itself, we had to get all of the utilities out of Racine Street and out of the property prior to the new Racine Street Bridge commencing the project. So we had water mains, sanitary mains, multiple electrical mains scattered throughout the Gilbert site as well as the Bonta site. So we had to make a decision way back when, prior to that commencement of that project, to say, we need to centrally locate these things, otherwise we can't develop anything. And that location at that time was chosen as Oak Street. So Oak Street is kind of that principal line now for all of those major utilities to kind of go down to actually service everything. So it is, I understand where you're kind of coming from, but looking at Oak Street is not just, not just a stub of a road, but it is the spur for additional development, as well as basically centering all those utilities on Oak Street allows us to capitalize on all that vacant property. If we were to not choose to do that, none of the other property would really be developable because of so many utility lines and easements that go throughout those properties. We can't forego those easements because they're not necessarily ours. So we actually have to ask these other utilities and entities to say, here's our plan. Do you support that? Can we move forward? So that's kind of why Oak Street was decided in its location that it is.
Okay, all right. So at some point, the last thing I'll comment on. So Corey, if we don't get the DNR approval, or as far as building the bridge, Oak Street will be put in. It could end up being a dead end without any DNR approval to continue with the bridge and continue with any type of further development north after we get to the Oak Street and the canal. Possibly.
so right now we can probably get the permitting to put the bridge in and put the road in. That I feel pretty confident that we could do. We do have to provide access for the Army Corps to the dam. That's part of the existing bridge that's out there. They have easement to that. So they have to have access. The problem comes in with the peninsula area that I described as being a dam is when you start doing underground construction, because per their definition, it's impounding water. So they're going to have problems if we try to dig a pipe through there. I don't want to build the bridge, or I would recommend not building the bridge ahead of doing the utilities, because in the one concept plan, you see a number of developable sites. Lot number 5, currently there's an existing sanitary sewer that cuts right through the middle of that. So it's old. We can't determine the condition underneath the canal because it's what's referred to as a siphon or a depressed sewer. So it's something that we're looking to try and repair. Currently, the water main for the site goes around the west side of the new apartment complex, whatever, and cuts through the middle of lot number 2 on the other side. So if we build the bridge ahead of that, trying to maximize our developable footprint out there, it would be very difficult to dig in those utilities right next to the abutments of a new bridge and not potentially damage things. As far as like trenchless and things of that, trenchless construction, the slopes that we would have on that proposed sanitary would be so flat that it's not possible. So that's why I would recommend against like just jumping forward and doing the bridge today also, is just because of those utilities and trying to keep that stuff confined as much as we can. So.
All right, thank you very much for your research and presentation. Thank you.
Alderman Grady.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question would be maybe more towards Director Sackett, would be on any type of grants or funding. Does this eliminate certain things because the timeline might be pushed out, or is this okay? Or I guess I just want to be educated on that.
So currently, we have received a grant through the Community Foundation for $325,000. So I have been keeping them updated on where we are with the progress of the project. So we just right now have extended that grant and delayed any payment until we move forward with this project. So that is the only active funding that we have received as far as grant funding. As Corey had noted and as noted in the memo, we have applied twice for the stewardship grant. That's part of where we've gotten this feedback from, when we sat down after we've applied for the grant and didn't receive the funding. We found out further details of why they had concerns about the Gobi barrier or the dam concerns. That's where we found out some of these details that we hadn't previously known. We expect to apply again in May for stewardship, assuming we feel we've progressed far enough. That is just once a year that you could apply for that. And that is a cost share funding as well. And there may be other potential sponsors or funding opportunities out there. I haven't explored them in great depth recently because of where we are in kind of a holding pattern with the project.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We're on top of that, so thank you very much.
Alderman Hammond.
Thank you, Chair. Corey, I think this question would be for you. I had a resident recently approach me about what would be Section 5, and just that it doesn't look incredibly aesthetically pleasing. We have this apartment being built, the new roundabout, the new bridge. I know a lot of this is dependent on the DNR and approval. I understand there's a lot of variables and moving parts in order to really move forward, but what do you think the short-term gain would be, maybe to make that area look more aesthetically pleasing, and what would like the long-term, just because it recently came up and I just figured since we're on the topic, it would be appropriate to ask.
No, so the thought process behind some of that is that we were going to be moving forward with some sort of like a street, temporary street and things of that nature. So as far as like the finished condition, we didn't completely seed it and things because we were in the hope that we were going to be ripping that back up and doing that. So at this point, it would still be the hope, like I said, to try and get that project this summer with something else that we have going on.
Okay, I just, while you were talking about it, wanted to ask because it recently came up and make sure I was hearing correct so I can get that information back. So thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions? So we will move on. This was mainly for discussion and to bring it forward so that you are aware of what's going on. So we'll move on to action items, and the first one is a change order. Is there a motion? Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sevenick. I'll make a motion to approve the change order for Advanced Construction Incorporated 2023-01 Bryn Underground Stormwater. We're going to deduct $102,332.17. That's a change order number 2 and final.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Tom Grady. Any further discussion on this?
So we're saving 100. Yeah.
Ted, did you check the numbers? Are they all good? All right, seeing there's no further discussion, we will take a roll call.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, clerk. Moving on then to item 2, a payment. Is there a motion? Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sevenick. I'll make a motion to accept the payment for Advanced Construction Incorporated 2023-01 Bryn Underground Stormwater for $13,782.18. This is payment number 3 and the final payment.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Tom Grady. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you for that. Next item is the Jefferson Park existing and new pavilion concept. And before we go on, I'm just going to say a few things, and then we'll let Megan and Thad address some of the issues. Now, as was stated by the chair of the board of the Parks Department, you know, there was a vision plan, and the plan has been implemented, and there were a number of people that have been involved, a lot of public input, and a lot of that public input was the pavilions. I agree with one of the speakers today about the timing. I will apologize. I felt that it was very important, so did the park board, that we move things forward, seeing that we have had a number of public inputs. Today is even a public input, and I have, even in my committee, put public comments into my agendas so that if the public had something to say, this would have been one of the meetings they could go to. So I commend the park board and the staff that are looking at some major cost savings. And, you know, the HVAC, the fireplace, the picnic tables, the donations, maybe the aesthetics of the building, how it looks. Someone suggested it's plain. But also remembering that much of this is being funded through America's Rescue Plan, and then the remainder by the taxpayer. So Megan, you seeing I've listed those things, and Thad, these are some of the issues that were raised, and we can discuss those.
Certainly, I'll try and touch on all those, and if I don't, please remind me. We are here tonight at an early meeting looking to get this approved so that we can continue to move forward. Related to the existing pavilion, we are looking to do a majority of that renovation in-house. There will be a few portions of it that are contracted out. In your packet is a memo kind of outlining all of the expected changes or renovations that we would be making to the existing, and then kind of the highlights of the new pavilion. I'll start with the existing pavilion and looking at the different graphics. Does everyone have those available on their computer? I don't know if Clerk Newman could bring those up on the big screen by chance. Potentially. While she works on that, I will kind of give an overview, and please stop me at any time if you have questions related to it. So I'll start on that outdoor rendering where you're looking from the parking lot at the outdoor or the exterior of the pavilion. On the back side of there, really you can see a whole new refresh of the color of it, and you'll see that same color mirrored throughout that. We're looking at kind of changing to a gray or a blue-gray tone to reflect some of the colors that you would see at the water, getting away from the browns that are currently in the park and adding a little bit of color throughout some of our facilities that we have. Some of the bigger changes in this interior or enclosed area is an addition of a interior restroom, a family-sized restroom. So we have 2 current restrooms that have plenty of stalls, but with the addition of the new playground, we are looking at putting in a family restroom. We would be sacrificing some of the storage space in that back area, but we feel we can still modify some of the existing area, build some shelf. And it's important for us to have a family restroom, again, with that proximity to the playground and having that space where parents are comfortable bringing their children or other people that may have special needs can also go into that space. We also had a boiler system in place at this pavilion that was not working, and there has been work done already on that. And so that now that interior part of the building or enclosed part of the building will be heated. So we'll have year-round restroom access for those using our park system. So yeah, so that second door on the right on the back side would be the addition of the family restroom. Right now, that's just a storage room that we use for a lot of our rec supplies or day camp supplies. We would move that into another part of the pavilion, into that interior storage and
it's
be able to
important to
accommodate
have
that.
because it will have a changing table.
Correct. It will have a changing table in there as well. Correct.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Thank you, Chair. Megan, just before you get too far,
Sure.
the public probably should know that that's all going to be recited. It's just not paint on the outside.
Correct. So the whole exterior of the building will be recited. It's important that we reside that, as currently there's birds' nests in there, there's bees that get into that wooden siding, so that will be completely resided, and then a new color, like I said, a gray or a blue-gray, something of that sort would be added. That flat roof on the enclosed portion will be completely replaced as well. That's been in the CIP for many years, as that needed to be replaced. The other part of the roof line has been replaced probably within the last 5 to 7 years, so that doesn't need work at that.
Okay, we'll probably go to the next picture, clerk, if possible.
In the current restrooms, as many of you know, it's kind of dark in those restrooms if you've gone in those anytime soon, so we did upgrade the lighting in those restrooms to add LED. We did look at some potential skylights, things like that, and just didn't feel like that was a good option in those. But we did upgrade the lights, and Thad assures me that it is quite bright in those restrooms right now with those upgraded lights. And then in the kitchen, if you've been in the kitchen recently, it is a great size space, but from my perspective, from some users' perspective, it's not really functional. A lot of times when you're renting a facility like that and renting a kitchen facility, you're looking for countertop space, maybe sink space, fridge space. There's currently a stove in there, not highly anticipated as a need in there, so we're going to expand the amount of counter space that is in there, add some shelving units, and really just make it a more functional space. That also will be painted on the inside and have an epoxy floor. So we'll just add a really nice refresh to that space and make it a little more functional.
What I thought was important was the additional outlets, and that a lot of people bring potluck, they have their Nescos, and you got to have the right type of voltage for that kind of equipment. And you'll also be having like benches along there, so they can place those.
So yeah, in this picture that is up on the screen right now, you can see underneath that blue wave kind of a countertop space. So on both sides of the kitchen serving window will be these counters with additional outlets for Nescos or whatever you might need it for. And those are designed for your food service areas. Right now, a lot of people drag picnic tables, and you're trying to navigate around the picnic tables for your food service lines. And we thought this is a perfect spot to put some of those so people can have the food service lines right there and not have to take up picnic tables to do that. Makes it a little bit easier to navigate around those areas. When looking at the interior, this too will get a refresh as far as paint matching the exterior colors. So again, that lighter gray, darker on the beams. That blue wave that you see on the far kitchen wall will be a metal artwork. So we wanted to make sure that we added some color to it with the grays. It's a very large wall. If you go in there right now, it's kind of a peachy color, a light color, shows a lot of dirt. And again, just very vast open space. So it will not be a solid blue wave like that. It's going to have more texture, likely will be backlit, and will be a metal piece that we'll put in there, but adding some color and some depth to that wall. As far as the main seating area, it was brought up, making sure, you can go back to that other photo, Val, if you would.
And then also the skylights you were...
Correct, yep, I'll get to those. Okay. The main seating area, or the main interior part of this pavilion, it was brought up about making sure that it works for all of our renters. So looking at our rentals over the last 3 years, about 75 to 85% of those are under 100 people. So when looking at this interior of this pavilion, we felt a lot of times there's small groups in there and it's a very vast space. So how do we fill that space, still make it functional for those groups that are using it, whether it's a smaller group or a larger group, but that it doesn't just feel so open if I have a 50-person party and it really has a capacity of 250. A lot of times there's seating in there for about 150 to 175. And it's not necessary, but we want to make sure that there are still some events that will need additional seating. So the first 2/3 of the pavilion, from the kitchen back to about that third pillar along the east and west sides, that will still remain your traditional picnic table style seating. It will have all brand new picnic tiles, something very durable. We're looking at wooden picnic tables that would be built in-house by our parks crew. And then at the kind of that 2/3 way, you'll see two kind of islands or peninsulas, you could say, that come from the both east and west walls. Those are one, to divide up the space a little bit from your traditional seating areas to a more relaxed seating, but it also can be used as serving, or it can be a gathering space. So you can sit, stand around those, gather around those, or those could be your food service areas as well. Those will have electrical outlets built into those. So if people want to put their food service areas around there, they can travel around there and pick their food up there. And then in this final 1/3 area, we wanted to make it a flexible space, I would say, make it available for people who want a more relaxed seating area. You can see it right in the middle is a 2-sided fireplace. So it will be a natural gas fireplace that people can enjoy from both sides. And then on either side of it, we envision some either pub style or relaxed seating areas in which people can enjoy those spaces, but still, provide seating options. And then finally, on that southern wall that faces the water, we look at putting a counter style seating, permanent seating, with some options for people to sit there and eat as well, or if they want to come to the park and grab their laptop and just sit within the park and enjoy that, they can do that as well. So there's different style of seating within there, but still able to accommodate the needs of the type of rentals that we have. That is an actual picture of the fireplace that we are looking. So you can see, again, it's a 2-sided, kind of a gray concrete around the top base and around kind of the middle area. And like I said, it will be natural gas. In the roof line, Stan had mentioned about adding skylights. When talking about the interior of the restrooms being very dark, also the interior of the pavilion happens to be very dark. I mean, there's lots of options for light to come through, but with the lower roof line and kind of the half walls, it limits the natural light getting in there. So there will be skylights added to the roof, as well as an upgrade to the lights that are in there to LED lights as well, to brighten that interior space. And then there will be, ceiling fans added as well for extra airflow. So you can see there'll be 3 large ceiling fans added there to increase airflow throughout there, as we know that it can get very warm in there at times as well. Is there any questions related to
And
the existing
also,
pavilion?
too, speaking of the fireplace, I know that we're talking about the two pavilions right now, but also there is plans for a fireplace on the outside of the building. Looking at that photo that we had before, photo number 22, that'll kind of be like, that's obviously at the location where they sell these, but
Correct. So this is what is proposed for inside the pavilion. Right now, I'm reviewing the concept plans for what's known as the social space. So if you remember from the concept, the overall park concept plan, there is the pavilion renovation, and then right adjacent to that, basically kind of where Brews on Bagel happens, we're looking at what's called a social space. So that will have permanent seating areas, whether it be picnic table style seating. It could have swing, like swing style seating. It also could have some fire pits there. I don't see a proposed like fireplace like what you see there. It will be more fire pits to gather around, as well as looking at an entertainment space, knowing that we do have some music options, whether it be Community Fest or Brews on Bagel happening, that there'll be an entertainment space. So right now, we really just have those bands perform, for at least for Brews on Bagel, right up against the pavilion. And it becomes a bit of an awkward transition from people walking maybe from the food area to get a beer. They're walking right in front of the music. So, and we want to keep those walking lanes open. So I'm reviewing those concept plans now, but yes, that will have some sort of fire pit option in those as well as varied seating and some permanent game areas as well.
Rosita?
Thank you. For the fireplace under the pavilion, will people have access to that at all times or just for the people who rent the pavilion?
So it will be controlled within our maintenance room. So it will be set so that it will be only operational during park hours. And then it would be, so you don't necessarily have to rent the pavilion, but what it will be is kind of like on a timer. So if you think of like a hot tub at a hotel, where you would have to turn it on, it will only be on for whatever determined length of time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then it will automatically go off till you turn it back on
But
again.
anybody could just walk through, walk up to it, sit down with a chair, turn it
Correct.
on for 20 minutes.
Correct. So
Okay.
yeah, because it is a public park, we want people to be able to enjoy it, just as that's the design that we look for out in the social space too. So you don't have to necessarily rent the pavilion or be a renter of the pavilion to use the social space any time of day, but it will be restricted to those park hours.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
Alderman Hammond?
Thank you, Chair. Megan, so with this proposed design with the fireplace and the pub style table and these more seating areas with permanence, there's still the fluidity to move picnic tables and things around. So for different size groups and folks with different abilities or in wheelchairs, we'll be able to customize that to different groups to be able to enjoy the space.
Correct. So the picnic tables still will have picnic tables designed for those that need maybe end of table seating, for those with wheelchairs or walkers, things like that, for them to be still easily accessible in those areas. But yes, there will still be plenty of space to navigate through and set it up so based on your rental needs.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Rapella?
Thank you very much, Alderman Sevenick. A couple questions. Megan, one thing about the fireplace, will it be available, 24, you said it'd just be during park hours?
Correct.
Now, would it be available, it's park hours go till 11 o'clock tonight. Could somebody go there, as an example, tonight and enjoy the fireplace tonight during the wintertime? Or is that not or is that not during park hours?
During park hours, we'll have to talk about winter months of the accessibility with that, but it is designed to be during just park hours.
Okay, understood that, but during the wintertime. All right, another one. You have your Camp Champs kind of focused at our pavilion. Would our improvements disrupt the Camp Champs as far as how that will be worked?
So for this year, for 2024, we are proposing moving our day camp or Camp Champs program to Clovis Grove for the timeline of this pavilion renovation. So our goal for pavilion renovation is to have it all ready to go by 4th of July. So the playground should be installed with final kind of restoration area done. And pavilion social space by 4th of July is the goal with all of that. So with that in mind, knowing that there would be disruptions as well as other renovations that will be happening within the park, with Cargus Drive going to be tore up after 4th of July, we felt there was a lot of things happening. So for this year, for sure, that day camp program will be relocated to Clovis Grove, and then we'll see how it goes from there, if that is a good option. for a location for Camp Champs. It still has a lot of great amenities at Clovis Grove, from access to a school or an indoor facility that's important when there's bad weather or it's too hot to be able to go into a school. The pavilion is a little bit smaller over there, but a lot of times the kids are divided into several smaller groups, so you don't need, I mean, they never use the full size of the current Jefferson Pavilion. So yeah, we have already discussed for this year that it would be relocated and not disrupt.
Okay, and then in future years, it would go back to our pavilion at Jefferson Park possibly, but would our new improvements hinder moving it back to?
No,
Jefferson.
Typically a max capacity for day camp is usually 40 to 50 kids per week. So the picnic table area, again, easily can seat that space. As far as the design of it, no, it actually creates some separation so that you could put the groups on different sides of that peninsula wall that I talked about, and create some division. So
I want to keep it more to the pavilion and stuff right now.
It is.
I realize that, Randy, but we've got limited time, and we're getting into the interpersonal workings of a daycare thing that we provide. And I want to move on to the structures of the building, if possible. So we still haven't even discussed the new one yet. And do
I could move
you have
into that.
anything further on
Not on this one, unless anyone has any other.
And
believe
I
I've
guess
hit all the
maybe
highlights.
you want to just quickly address why we're looking at us doing a lot of the work on the current existing building.
Sure. As Chairman Sturm alluded to, a lot, costs for things are rising. So when looking at proposed costs when it came to this existing facility, I think initial budget numbers or initial estimates, without us kind of fine tuning it and putting a red pen to it, was anywhere from $325,000 to $450,000 just for pavilion renovation. We removed some of those extras on there, but still, with our staff doing it, we're able to have about roughly a $200,000 savings, maybe a little bit more than that. Also, you can see on the exterior of this pavilion that silver metal sign. So there is a possibility, I'm in discussions with it possibly being a large donation towards this. And then we may look at naming of the facility with this large donation, which would be a significant cost savings related to this, and or possibly the social space as well. And that cost savings would likely be reallocated to another portion of the park, as many portions of the park are quite costly and coming in above those estimates originally. Would have been, I think when we first started with the concept plan back in 2021, we looked at some of those cost estimates and took the high end of those. But over the last couple of years with inflation, we're certainly exceeding those. So we're looking at alternative funding or saving where we can in some of that. And this is one of them where we can, Thad and crew can handle a lot of that work. And that's a large component of this. That's one, the timing of this approval is that they can work on some of this over the winter months with some of the interior being heated. And then when it comes spring, do some of the exterior work, as well as getting the new pavilion design concept approved, because we need to move forward so that we can get construction documents completed, so then we can go out to bid in spring. So it's not just related to this existing pavilion, it's also related that we need to continue to move this process forward if we're going to start construction on that existing pavilion in late summer timeframe. So we need to keep it moving forward.
Speaking of moving it forward, let's push number 24 and let's move to the new pavilion, which would be closer to the new ball diamond and the boat launches.
Correct. This one is proposed to sit adjacent to, like Alderman Sevenk said, in between the ball diamond and the boat launch. This is a little bit smaller capacity facility. It's designed to be about a 75-person capacity. The exterior, you would say, looks a little brown here in the renderings, but it will match whatever choice is chosen for the other pavilion. Really, as far as a design, it's designed to just meet the needs of that end of the park as far as bathroom usage. So there is a men's and women's bathroom as well as another family restroom there. We wanted a mid-sized pavilion, so again, a 75-person capacity pavilion is about the middle-sized group that we would need, not too vast, not too open. One of our largest requests is always having a kitchen, so currently only 2 of our facilities in our park system have a kitchen, and that is Smith and the current Jefferson Pavilion. So included in this one is a kitchen. It has 2 service windows, one to face the interior of the shelter area and then one to face kind of the northern facing wall, which would be positioned to serve the softball diamond. So if the softball association would want to rent that facility, it would have that window open towards the softball diamond where they could walk right up there and have a view of that. There's also a closet adjacent to that kitchen so that we as a Park and Rec department have some storage in there, as well as if they're renting it for concession, they have some long-term storage, so they're not having to pack up all their supplies every week if they would rent the duration of the season. So we wanted to be cognizant of that. Also included in this design, and you can see it in this picture that's up there right now, is a garage, a space for maintenance needs, whether it be the ball diamond drag or some just general park supplies for our parks crew to store in. So they will have a drive-up garage there, and directly adjacent to that or to the right of that garage is that service window that I was just referring to for the concession stand. So it's about a 4,000 square foot facility. But really just meant to serve kind of 4 areas. The boat launch area, so we would remove that porta potty that exists there. You would have the softball diamond users. We would remove that small shelter that's between the 2 softball diamonds right now and that small restroom facility. So you'd have restrooms here. You have your trail users. We obviously have a lot of trail users that go through this park. And you also have your shelter rentals. So this adds another rentable shelter with a kitchen. So important asset to that.
And something needed on that end of Jefferson Park.
Correct. And it's a great location. It separates. I know we have 2, a pavilion and a shelter on the west end of the park. Frankly, there's limitations when renting both of those at the same time, depending on the type of rental that you have at the larger pavilion. If you have a large company picnic, a wedding, it really makes it difficult to rent out that west shelter then, because they kind of overflow. They may have loud music. It just doesn't always work well. That small west shelter was built for Seafood Fest to really be the beer garden area or beer tent, I could say. And so it's not as needed down there as it more is on the east side of the park, so hence the location of this one.
Alderman Rappella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Sevenick. I guess I'm going to go back just to take a little step back. I know that you mentioned that Thad and his crew would be doing some of the labor, the work on the pavilion. And they're going to be doing it during the spring area, or the springtime of the year. I guess I just have a concern. How much money, I mean, obviously Thad and his crew is getting paid through the city, and how much of a cost savings would that do? Because they're still getting paid for their daily work compared to having somebody else build it. I guess, has that been kind of figured out how much money we're actually going to be saving? Because Thad's crew's got to do their normal daily work as well.
Right, so we're estimating supplies for the renovation to be about $130,000 to $150,000. And like I referenced, there's about a $200,000 cost savings based on original estimates. I haven't done the math or estimated exactly how many hours, or Thad hasn't, of how many hours that they would put into this, but it won't be $200,000. I mean, we're going to be saving that in labor to be able to complete this renovation.
Will Thad and his crew still be able to carry out city work as well?
Well, that's the benefit of being able to do it during the winter months, and hence the approval tonight, is this time of year, there is time to dedicate to projects like this. And we've taken that into consideration when looking at all the other projects that we have lined up, whether it be street projects or other park-related projects, that this fits in the overall plan. Certainly, we've looked at that.
Okay. Thank you. That's true.
Correct, right. They did the renovation of the police station this year for a cost savings. Correct.
Anything further, Alderman Rappella?
Nope.
Are you looking for a recommendation to the Common Council?
Yes, that is what I'm looking for.
Was there a recommended motion?
Yes, there should be one at the bottom of the memo.
You have it, Randy? Alderman Grotti.
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I'd like to make the motion from the Park Board to recommend to the Board of Public Works to approve the presented design concept of the existing pavilion and new pavilion as part of the Jefferson Park Vision Plan and forward to the Common Council.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Tom Grotti. Anything further? Thad, you came, you didn't say nothing. Yeah, all right. Okay. Seeing none, we'll take a roll call.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, clerk. Seeing there's no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded by Alderman Ted Grady. Tom's brother, yes. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned. Have a good evening.